like to welcome everyone to the Garland City Hall. We're gathered here today with my friends from the cities of Mesquite, Plano, and Richardson. Very glad to have all of you here. We're going to just kick things off and ask Bruce Glasscock from the city of Plano to start us off.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. As Mayor Athas said, I'm Bruce Glasscock. I'm the city manager with the city of Plano. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Mayor Athas for hosting this event and for his warm welcome. In addition to Mayor Athas, with us today are the mayors Stan Pickett, from the mayor of Mesquite, Harry LaRoseliere, mayor of Plano, and Paul Velker, mayor of Richardson. Their respective city managers are also present in the audience: Brian Bradford from Garland, Cliff Keeley from Mesquite, and Dan Johnson from Richardson. Today, the cities of Garland, Mesquite, Plano, and Richardson have joined together in an unprecedented move to ask the Public Utility Commission of Texas, the PUC, to conduct a review of our water rates with the North Texas Municipal Water District. We took this action because the rates set by the Water District under the 6-decade-old water supply contract are discriminatory, are inconsistent with water conservation, and are not in the public interest. We are losing tens of millions of dollars at the expense of our taxpayers because the North Texas Municipal Water District's current rate methodology is outdated and does not incentivize water conservation. Currently, we pay for water on a take or pay system that is based on our greatest year of use. This level cannot be reduced regardless of whether or not the cities use the entire amount of water they are paying for. As a result, our cities paid a total of $178 million for water that we did not use. Let me say that again. That's $178 million for water that we did not use. Years of drought and the successful adoption of water conservation strategies have changed the amount and way we use water. It is unlikely we will ever again use the minimums that were set by our greatest annual usage. Forcing member cities to pay continually increasing rates for a fixed quantity of water, regardless of the actual consumption, is not fair and inconsistent with water conservation measures. Collectively, the cities of Garland, Mesquite, Plano, and Richardson represent 750,000 ratepayers, which is more than 60% of the total member cities' ratepayers in the district. This means that more than half the North Texas Municipal Water District ratepayers are paying too much for water. For many years, we have been trying to rectify the disparity in the effective rates that currently exist, but the cities lack the necessary bargaining power with the Water District. Informal discussions among ourselves will not result in the much-needed changes. Making this request to the PUC affords us a formal process to set rates that are fair and are equitable. We remain committed, all 4 cities, to working together with the other member cities toward a positive solution, and as long-standing members of the Water District will remain members in the district. However, we firmly believe that requesting a new rate methodology that is fair and that encourages water conservation is in the best interest of the entire region. At this time, I invite each mayor to share a few comments, and then we'll be available to answer any of the questions you may have. We will begin with Mayor Athas of Garland.
Thank you, Bruce. Just like to say that over 60 years ago, Garland became one of the founding members of the North Texas Municipal Water District. In 1988, agreements with Garland and 10 other member cities were consolidated, and since that time, the Water District has added 2 additional members. I share this brief history to point out the key provisions of our agreement with the Water District date back to a time when we had smaller populations and conservation methods were not adopted. Today, our region is significantly different. The recent drought changed the way we use water, and successful water conservation has changed the game. However, the Water District's rate methodology does not reward these conservation efforts. Our residents and businesses are paying too much for water under an outdated rate method that does not provide incentives for conservation. Over the past 10 years, Garland has paid $28 million for water that we have not used. We are embarking on this formal process with the PUC to seek relief and a fair methodology that encourages water conservation. Essentially, we're forced to follow a rate model that is unsustainable in the long term. In the short term, it actually penalizes conservation. In the recent drought, we all cut back. We were watering once every 2 weeks across all of our cities. And the reward for our customers that worked so hard to conserve water was we raised their rates. There is no incentive under this rate methodology for conservation, and it is not, like I said, it is not a business model that can be sustained. I'd like to ask my good friend, Mayor Stan Pickett, to also share some comments with you.
Thank you, Mayor Athis. Thank you for having us out here today. You know, the North Texas Municipal Water District member cities pay for water based on a take-or-pay system, which means that we pay based on the year of our greatest consumption, annual usage. This level cannot be reduced based on our subsequent water patterns. As a result of this current structure, Mesquite has paid $36 million over the past 14 years for water that we did not use. Mesquite's not alone. The cities of Garland, Mesquite, Plano, and Richardson include about 750,000 ratepayers, which you've heard earlier today, which is more than 60% of all ratepayers in this district. A number of our Mesquite citizens have expressed concern about these rates during our city council members recently. And we have an obligation to these residents and to our businesses to be responsible financial stewards. Forcing our member cities to pay continually increasing rates for a fixed quantity, regardless of actual consumption, has locked us into a rate model, again, that cannot be sustained. It is inconsistent with conservation, have you heard Mayor Athis mention, in the initiatives, and it's contrary to what I believe is the best public interest. At this time, I'd like to ask Plano Mayor Harry LaRosaliere to come forward and speak.
Thank you, Mayor Prickett. I want to be very clear and reiterate two key points that we've heard. The North Texas Water District structure is fundamentally inconsistent with conservation. It is unequivocally not in the best interest for the public, and it's against the public best interest. And over the past 15 years, Plano's promoted conservation to our citizens and residents. Meanwhile, our city's paid $78 million in water we have not used. To compound this unsustainable structure, we've seen a consistent rise in water rates. And despite these increases in water rates, we've seen some of the water districts' non-member cities' rate come in lower than member cities. And that's ineffective. Plano has been voicing concerns about the rate methodology for over a decade. We've participated in all possible processes to seek a solution, and all 13 members and the water districts would have to agree. That's been unsuccessful, unfortunately, and much to our disappointment. It's resulted in no changes. This is unacceptable because we can no longer subsidize a system where we are paying for water that we're not using. Filing this appeal is the right thing to do on behalf of our businesses and our residents. It affords us a formal process to request a rate methodology that is fair and equitable. And at this time, I'd like to invite Mayor Velker to share some final comments.
Thanks, Mayor Lassiere. On behalf of the City of Richardson, I'm here today to support this request to seek a rate relief from the North Texas Municipal Water District for our Richardson citizens and businesses. We all acknowledge the benefits of being part of a regional system. Our 4 cities are longstanding members of the North Texas Municipal Water District, and in the spirit of regionalism, we will maintain that membership. Any action we take is intended to strengthen our region. However, the Water District's current rate methodology is not fair and is inconsistent with water conservation, as earlier stated. Over the past 14 years, Richardson has paid $36 million for water that we did not use. For many years, we have been trying to rectify this disparity of rates, and we've been unsuccessful. However, the water district system is structured in a way that makes it difficult, if not impossible, to achieve the necessary long-term relief through informal discussions that we've had. And that's why we are asking the PUC to review the rate methodology as the next step in this process. With that, I'll turn it back over to Bruce for conclusion.
Thank you, Mayor. In closing, I think you can see why this is such an important issue for our citizens and our cities and our businesses who are the ratepayers impacted by an unfair and outdated system. Repeating myself, but collectively, the 4 cities have spent $178 million for water not used over the past years. At this time, we'll be open the program to any questions. I'll ask Paige Mims, the City Attorney for Plano, to join us in case you have any questions on the PUC process, and be happy to take any questions, either myself or for the mayors.
What are you asking the PUC to do? What would you ideally like to happen?
What the process is we're asking the PUC to take a review of the current rate methodology, and that's what's being asked of the PUC. And now what comes out of that review is what we will hope that there is some relief provided as a result of that review.
Do you have something in mind of what kind of relief you think?
Not at this time. I mean, we're going to look to the PUC to come back. As has been said by the other mayors, we've worked a number of years with the other cities in an effort to try to come to an informal agreement because it requires the unanimous agreement of all the member cities. We don't think we're going to be in a position to be able to reach an agreement that we all agree to.
Have you spoken to the PUC about this already? And if so, what has their response been?
I'm going to defer that to Paige Mims on the PUC filing.
We have outside counsel representing us, the Vincent and Elkins Law Firm, and they've been handling the preparation of the petition that was filed this morning. And I think they've had some informal discussions with PUC staff regarding that matter, but the case is set out in the petition that's been filed this morning.
I guess my question is, if you're making a public request, has there been conversations prior to this? And were they open to this idea or reluctant?
The jurisdiction of the cases that we have on this matter have recently changed from the TCEQ to the PUC. And I'd have to defer those questions to our outside counsel about what the proceedings were to lay the groundwork for filing the petition today.
Can you explain what sort of authority the PUC would have to change this that you guys don't have as the member cities? Sort of why going to the PUC, how that could potentially help, just for folks that aren't too familiar with how the water process works?
As I said, under the current system, it requires a unanimous agreement on the part of all 13 member cities and the district to make a change in the rate methodology. We have been in meetings, we have worked with the district over the past number of years in trying to come to some resolution. We have not been successful in that. We do not believe that we're negotiating against ourselves in a sense. The PUC, we believe, is a third-party, neutral arbitrator that can look at the rate methodologies and based on that review, then make recommendations that become binding on the ratepayers and the district, and we hope that is where we get to at this point.
At any point have you guys talked about and considered in this process leaving the water district?
Never has been an item of discussion. We are unified on that point. We've founding members. The district has been in place for 60 years. It was created to create a regional system. We believe that is important to the region, and our commitment is to stay with the district and to continue to try to work through to a resolution that is acceptable to all the impact is acceptable to all the ratepayers.
How did these four cities come together? I mean, what started this conversation? I mean, I guess how did you guys?
Well, we're the largest. The four cities represent, as we said, 750,000 of the ratepayers. Over 60% of those ratepayers. We have had our four cities have worked together on other projects, either individually or collectively. We've had a great working relationship. In our position, we are the ones who are being the greatest, having the greatest financial impact, and so it was just a natural merger that the four of us came together in that respect.
I don't know if you would have this specific information, but just in terms of the amount you guys have had to pay for unused water, do you know about what that comes out to in terms of, how much more each one of your residents or each one of your customers is paying on their water bill? Just going to be kind of translate dollars to those folks?
I don't, and it would probably take all of us some time to compute that figure out. So, okay. Yes, ma'am.
What's the timeline like to get back to the PUC?
I don't know.
There's no time frame set under the law for this type of case. It's in two parts. First, we are asking to establish that the rates are against the public interest, and once that's established, we'll move to the rate review portion of the case. We think the first part of the case regarding whether or not it's against the public interest will take approximately 6 to 9 months, and we're confident that we're going to prevail on the merits of that part of the case.
What do you guys expect this whole process to cost the cities? I mean, you guys joining efforts as far as the four of you guys funding, I guess, like any kind of filing costs or anything you might have to do?
We are cost sharing. Everybody's participating in this case to fund it, and we think that the money we're spending is just a small portion of the significance of the funds that we have paid for unused water over the years, and it's hard to estimate at this point. A lot of things can affect how much a case costs, and so it would just be a guess if I did that at this point.
Any other questions?
When you guys lay it out, it does seem that it doesn't make sense that you would be paying for water that you're not using. Do you know why the current system is the way it is?
Yeah, the contract was created some 60 years ago when the district was formed.
Yeah.
It was a different time. You were in a rural area, the populations were small, it was an agrarian type system, conservation wasn't an issue. It's difficult to go back and think what the process was when those cities at that time entered into that type of arrangement. But it's clear that in today's environment, the system is outdated. It's not fair to our ratepayers, and it is not consistent with conservation measures that are needed today and that will be in the future. And so that's the reason we're moving forward with this motion. If there are no further questions, we thank you for coming today, and have a great day. Thank you.